when people invested in the company, did they buy tokens? Did they invest in the corporate? Did they do both? And now you have this foundation. How does this all architect itself? Because this is a new concept that's different than venture, correct?
It's like a trial by fire. There wasn't, I wouldn't call it an architecture. It was just the best we could do given the resources we had in a really fast moving environment. And I think we did pretty well, mostly because of folks like Cosmos, where we followed a lot of the playbook that they set out. So the idea is that you really want a decentralized network, and decentralization really means truly independent operators of the network that can control and run the nodes and maximize the cost to destroy it. Literally, the network dies if I can go and wipe out every copy of the ledger. That's what it means to kill a network. So making that as expensive as possible requires many jurisdictions, many independent providers, many data centers, many humans, right, running these things. And the effective playbook is to do this via foundation. Switzerland is like a nice place to start it because they have
the Zerg.
They have pretty clear laws on digital assets. And you're still constrained by US laws. You still can't just like dump tokens on on US persons. So you still have to go through the, exempt kind of style raises that you do normally for a venture-backed company, mostly dealing with US accredited investors and so forth.
So let's talk about what people are building on top of Solana, because am I correct that this is essentially like an operating system where people can build apps on top of it? And how does that manifest itself? Is this a specific code base? How does one build an application? How sophisticated is that application language if you were to compare it to, say, building, I don't know, a website or building an app on iOS?
So this kind of really speaks to my background. I spent most of my career at Qualcomm. First big project I was on was Brew, which is the first mobile platform OS. So the environment for Solana is you build a ELF executable object, right? That targets Berkeley Packet Filter, which is a bytecode that's got really high security guarantees, with LLVM, which is a standard compiler toolchain that if you've been coding, you've heard of it. And you can use any front-end language, so C, C++, Rust, and we have a systrus that we built to help you target the thing, and we prefer Rust. So it's kind of like building for an embedded system, and you should think of it as an embedded system because it is one shared giant computer for the entire world. And the world is big, right? So if you don't treat it as an embedded system, it becomes very expensive to be able to host arbitrary applications because you just can't use a lot of arbitrary resources.
Would somebody be able to build an application equivalent to, I'll just give two examples here and we'll walk through it. Let's say Twitter, a basic social network, microblogging platform, or Spotify on Solana currently. And when they did, does that mean when they deploy it, they have zero server costs? They're just deploying to the network, or they're paying, and so when somebody would resolve to run Spotify or to run Twitter, they would be running on the Solana network. Is that the concept here?
So it's deceptive. If I said yes, it's possible, but I'd be lying because what the network is scaling is writes. It's simply scaling writing the state and confirming that these writes happened.
Got it. All the database component.
All the actual hard work in Twitter is on scaling the reads, right? Twitter has like 5,000 tweets per second. We can handle 5,000 transactions per second. Not a big deal. But how do you globally scale 100 million concurrent reads and structure this data? It's the same work that Twitter does.
It's a giant, what do they call those? Non-SQL databases, I guess, that let you pull up pre-constructed lists of your feed. And that is another type of technical challenge. So what we would be saying here in the Twitter example is, yes, your writes to your feed could be handled by the Solana network, but the reads would have to be done in some other place, correct?
Correct.
And then if you did deploy in this fashion, you basically no longer require a database at, AWS or somewhere. You're relying on the Solana network to be your giant database to confirm all of these tweets in this example. But you would still have to figure out a way to have people read it and construct those feeds, which you would do through a normal, whatever, LAMP stack or whatever you used.
Yep, exactly.
And then the people running the network would get paid a fraction of a penny every time you wrote a tweet to the network.
And you could socialize it from like your single application server that kind of takes in the funnel of human tweets and then pays for them, right? And you can send them ads instead. Or you could use a truly self-custody decentralized way where your user expected to have a wallet, they have some SOL in it, and they just automatically pay every time they tweet.
This would be a way to mitigate against spam and deal with identity on these networks, because if you were running a bot farm, you would all of a sudden have a cost to everything you published to the network. And so if Twitter wanted to get rid of spam and bots, if they charged a penny every time you created an account, and it was 1/100th of a penny for your first tweet of the day, 1/10th of a penny for your second, and a penny for your 10th, whatever it is, you could actually model out a de minimis amount of cost, like something people would never even notice, $1 a year maybe, or $1 every 10 years, but it would be enough to kill all the bots, correct?
Correct. That is exactly Sybil resistance, the whole proof of work reason for proof of work to exist is to kill bots.
It's time for another OurCrowd deal of the week. Right now, you can join OurCrowd's investment in Orient. According to the deal memo, Orient's software-only indoor GPS is 20 times more accurate and scalable than current solutions. And they've landed contracts with some of the largest retailers of the world. So why join OurCrowd, you ask? Well, OurCrowd investors were in early on some of the best performing IPOs of 2019 and 2020, and now you can join them. With OurCrowd, accredited investors can invest directly, easily, and most importantly, early. OurCrowd investors have benefited from companies IPOing like Beyond Meat or being bought by companies like Intel, Nike, Microsoft, Oracle, and Uber. So here's your old CTA, the call to action. OurCrowd's accredited investors have already invested over $1 billion in growing tech companies. If you're an accredited investor, you can join OurCrowd for free at OurCrowd.com/twist and review the current deals. There is no payment involved until you decide to invest. That's OurCrowd.com/twist to sign up for free.